Next is the introduction to our ordinance number 828, proposed surface water management fees.
So the purpose of this, thank you, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this item is to adopt ordinance number 828 to establish the 2024 surface water management service charges. In accordance with the city's financial policy, staff is recommending an annual increase to the surface water management or SWIM service charges by 4.6% to adjust for inflation. The proposed increase is based on the Consumer Price Index U from June 22nd to June 23rd, 2023. The proposed 2024 fees for the different classes are presented within the summary section of the agenda bill and are included in the ordinance. The fee increases will help to maximize the primary revenue source for the Surface Water Management Fund to cover current and future costs, including inflation. Staff recommends placing this ordinance on the consent agenda of the next regular meeting.
I'll entertain a motion for ordinance 828. Councilmember Moore,
Move to place this item on the consent agenda of the next regular meeting.
is there a second? It's been seconded by Councilmember Sarah. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Council or Deputy Mayor.
I was going to speak to the motion, but sure.
Is there a way to have the figures for this up on the screen? The proposed figures for the fees? Do you have that in a slide?
They can pull up the agenda bill.
So just generally, I have a question about surface water management fees. Can you explain to the council and the public how these are determined to be collected in terms of the cost? What's the calculation to understand the fee paid per acre and per rate class?
So big picture, I can try to explain the best to my ability. However, Maya, the Public Works Manager, was involved with the adoption of this ordinance and this fee structure.
Sure.
So she may have additional questions to follow up. However, so overall, these fees are dedicated to the SWIM fund that we reviewed on October 4th. So the SWIM fund is responsible for drainage, and that covers the operating. These fees is the primary revenue source to cover the operating cost, labor, materials, plus the capital projects. So in regard to the structure of the fees, they have a rate class of 7 with residential as one component. And in the regard to the other classes, those are primarily commercial. That goes from very light, moderate, heavy, and very heavy. So these fees were implemented, before my time, and then per the financial policies, it's recommended that we increase them on an annual basis per the CPIU to keep up with the current cost and future cost.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Thank you. I mostly just want to reiterate what I said just a few moments ago. Well, our city is facing a budgetary shortfall, and if we do not break even on the cost of existing services, we can't afford the things that people want, the things that everybody wants. Doesn't really matter who you are. I've never heard somebody say, I don't want parks. I don't want my parks clean. I don't want sidewalks. I've never heard that. I hear people constantly saying, we don't have enough money for basic infrastructure improvements, like addressing some of the serious concerns in Boulevard Park, for example. We have people here talking just this evening about, the shortage of police in our city. This money is necessary to maintain as a city. And whether that is a popular position to take or not, it is our responsibility to keep the city operational for the benefit of every person who lives here. So again, I want to recognize, I understand the burden that falls on families. I'm a mom. I have to raise 2 kids and struggle. And quite frankly, we don't make very much money in this role. But we need to keep our city operational. And so I will be in support, and I would urge my fellow council members to do so as well, especially noting the deadline that is imposed here to be adopted by November 30th. Thank you.
Councilmember Sarah, then Councilmember Mata.
I want to additionally add that surface water was part of the city manager's report earlier this evening, that there was surface water issues in Boulevard Park early, yesterday. It was either yesterday or Saturday. I was there, I saw them, but I don't remember what day it was. And surface water is becoming more of an issue with the torrential rains that are not what we think of as Seattle rain. They are faster. I think I heard 1.5 inches in a 24-hour period. We need to keep up with our surface water management, or we'll be underwater.
Councilmember Mata.
Finance Director Christian, my question would be for this fund, capital improvement jobs would be directly jobs that have to do with surface water. So would that include the situation that we encounter with the mass of water? Like when it rains here, it really does concern me. Not because of Boulevard Park, because I was already victimized by that this weekend. My whole business was flooded. The streets were flooded. My shop was flooded. Tools had to throw away. Furniture had to throw away. And so that is an issue. But the biggest issue is more on the critical area, the critical slide area that we have in the city that concerns me every time it rains this way. Would that fund also be as we, because if I remember right, this kind of came up, I don't know, 7 years ago, 5 years ago, while I've been on the council, is we started having the critical area started to show some problems in that area. And I want to thank Maya, because she got jumped on it, and we were able to get some storm waters out there to be able to figure the management of the water, so we could have that water, make sure that it wasn't going to continue to erode the critical slide area in the city of Burien. Is that fund directly just for those kinds of projects?
So without Public Works Director Mike here, to be more specific, I would, based on your description, yes, I would believe so. And for clarification too, the surface water capital fund was presented at the last capital meeting by Maya. These funds, these fees are the primary revenue source to fund those capital projects. And there's a number of listed projects, and I could forward them. We can forward them tomorrow if needed and resend that presentation. But there's it addressed a lot of drainage in those
But I'm sure
the
with
capital.
the budget that was used, the funds that were used when we had the situation at Seahurst Park where we had that slide and we had that sidewalk almost collapse with a slide of that side of the hill.
In regard to Seahurst and that though, that's right now, we are funding that in the parks, in the general fund parks budget.
Is that because it's not part of the surface water?
That's
budget?
primarily due to the location at a park.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Maya, did you have anything to add?
I don't, the answer is yes, the surface water fund is definitely used for those sorts of things and to manage our existing stormwater system and to control where water is going that's coming from our streets and from our neighborhoods. The rate structure, I apologize, when I switched over from the TV version of you guys to the Zoom version, I lost about 1.5 minutes, I think. So I apologize if I'm not capturing everything that was asked. But the rate structure is based on the amounts of impervious versus pervious service on properties. And so how much runoff is coming from those properties is how we base that rate structure. And it's a very common rate structure among the Puget Sound region. And so that's what that basis is for. And again, the answer to Councilmember Mata is yes, those types of things are definitely surface water fed, and we work within our system to try to control how the surface water is fed into the properties.
So I don't see any other questions, and there is a motion on the table to place this item on the consent agenda of the next regular meeting. So all those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye. Councilmember Moore, Deputy Mayor Schilling, myself, Councilmember Mata, Councilmember Sarah, all those voting no. Councilmember Mora. So the motion passes 6 yeas and 1 nay.